Hello, and welcome to episode 36 of Unlimited Opinions. I'm Adam Bishop.
I'm Mark Bishop.
And as always, we're reading Anthony Kenny's A New History of Western Philosophy. In this episode, we're talking about metaphysics in the modern era of philosophy.
We're reluctantly talking about metaphysics in the modern era.
Yes, he is not interested at all.
I just can't get into it. I'm sorry.
And it does feel a little weird welcoming our listeners back because it's been approximately 5 minutes for us since we recorded the last episode, but it's been a week for them, so.
We just traveled through time.
We did. Look at us go.
Or, I guess we were really slow.
Yeah.
Wait, was that fast or slow? We went a week ahead of time in 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes, that's right.
Pretty fast.
Yeah, the weather's terrible. I don't know what that means.
That's one of the worst jokes you've ever told.
I'm just saying absurd things right now.
I feel like that's going to be a lot of your commentary this episode.
I read over this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't care less. I don't know what it is. I should have been, I don't know.
All right, starting off, varieties of idealism with Schopenhauer. So Schopenhauer believed that the world only exists in relation to my consciousness. So basically, as far as I can understand, that's how the world exists. And
Isn't that the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Because he kind of goes on to say that understanding is what turns raw sensation into perception. And so that's kind of how we come to understand the universe, how our consciousness experiences the universe. And I mean, I guess there's some level of truth to that. Because, it's only as far as I know about it. That's how much exists to me. Well, to me.
Who cares? Who cares
Yeah,
what exists for you? What matters is what exists for everyone.
Yes, I agree.
Go ahead.
And speaking of kind of what exists for everyone, he doesn't believe that understanding is what's unique to humans. He says that this level of understanding is, apparent in animals of all kinds. They can perceive the world. But reason is what is unique to humans. And reason is the ability to form abstract concepts and link them to each other. So, looking at things beyond what actually, exists to us, as far as we can tell, as far as we can perceive, really kind of linking all those things together in something larger. That is reason, and that is unique to us.
Hasn't that been said by like 300 people already in this book? In the ancient Middle Ages and early modern period?
Probably.
Yes. It's the same stuff. Go ahead.
Yes. He kind of goes on to...
I'm just going to make angry comments.
Yes, I know you are. This is going to be very pleasant for me. All right. Schopenhauer goes on to say that, we have these laws of nature. We look at gravity and we look at inertia and those sorts of things. So we could say that those things exist, but just by their mere existence, that doesn't explain why they exist. Simply because we can observe something is not a reason, why it actually exists.
So why does it exist, Mr. Schopenhauer?
Well, he goes into that. He goes into how act and will are identical. And so this act and this will are also kind of equated to force, and this is kind of what lies behind all of these laws of nature, like gravity and inertia. And so they are kind of what propels everything to actually happen. It's not so much... It's not like these laws have any sort of consciousness. He's not saying that as like their will. They don't have any sort of desire to do anything. It is just essentially their nature to kind of move these things into existence.
Doesn't this come under the category of no shit Sherlock? So the rules of nature and existence apply.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what he's saying.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that something is moving everything. So I guess, after we got past, in human history, after we got past the Greek gods controlling all our fates and everything, didn't we come to this realization?
Vaguely, but he kind of goes a little bit more in depth because he kind of says that, will is expressed in conflict. And so what he means by that is, when I raise my arm, that is my own will to raise my arm overpowering the will of gravity. And so there's
no will of gravity.
Well, in his definitions there is.
Well, he's wrong.
Okay.
There's no consciousness of gravity.
Well, he's not saying it's a consciousness. No. It is just like it's force, essentially.
But I have a will that I'm using against the force of gravity.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead.
Okay. And so by this, there's kind of this hierarchy of will. Basically, our will is kind of at the top of everything because we can kind of go past many of these laws of nature to, you know, create our own inertia to go against gravity to act in this way. And this is where we get these levels of will.
Like beetles do. You know, like beetles have this higher will. Because, you know, beetles walk and they sometimes can fly short distances.
Yes, they can.
They have this higher level will.
All right. I don't think we want to talk about Schopenhauer anymore.
No, we can talk about him.
No, that's really all I had to say.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
I don't mean to shut you down.
That's all right.
Metaphysics and teleology?
Yes. So teleology is the act of expressing concepts in terms of their end goal. And so this kind of really goes back to sort of Aristotle, in that, you know, where he kind of, you know, looks at, you know, the stars and that their end goal is to be in their place in the sky, or fire's end goal is to go up. You know, that is its cause for existing is that to go up.
They have some sort of consciousness or meaning or will or desire.
Yes.
And that is refuted.
Yes, and that is what he's kind of saying here is that at this point in time, in this modern era, many people believe that there is just no room for teleology in science at all.
Right.
So then we go to talk about Darwin a little bit, in that, you know, we do kind of see some level of teleology with Darwin, in that the goal for his, you know, theory of evolution is survival.
That's the way he describes it, but it's not really a goal. It just happens.
Yes.
Because these you know, beetles and fish and all that stuff aren't thinking, oh, I need to propagate the species. They just are or they're not.
Yes.
You know, it's just like the wind or a storm, don't you think?
And he kind of compares that to Lamarck, and Lamarck was this kind of evolutionary biologist before Darwin, who really did believe that, you know, animals kind of developed these to have an end goal. He kind of says, you know, giraffes evolved from horses because they were continuously striving to reach higher leaves. Right. And that's how we got giraffes. You know, there was that end goal there. And so it
had nothing to do with the fact that, you know, they ran out of food and they died if they didn't have long necks, right?
Yes. Because Darwin is all about that random chance to have that beneficial you know, evolution.
Right.
And so with this, you know, kind of theory of evolution in play, there are really two major questions left. Are the free desires of humans teleological or mechanistic? So, you know, our own desires, you know, just to do good and to learn more, is that something that is unique to us to have this end goal, or is that just something that we are kind of made to do, you know, kind of by the makeup of our brain?
Or maybe it just benefits us as a species to propagate so that we think that we're doing good things, but it just helps us to stay alive. Because if all we wanted to do is kill each other, then those people that had that inclination killed each other centuries ago.
Yeah.
Right. And
then if humans are teleological, are Darwinian explanations adequate for the existence of these teleological creatures? And so that's kind of the big question. And I know that the church kind of answered these by saying, you know, because the Catholic Church does say that, evolution is a thing.
Right.
But we kind of have to bear in mind that evolution has a purpose as far as humans go. You know, God kind of set evolution into motion specifically to create humans, to have this sort of teleology to create humans is that goal there, to have these creatures in the world. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Not particularly.
Not particularly.
Do you want me to have thoughts about that?
I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Well, why don't you tell me what you think? Why do I always have to share my opinions? What's your opinion on that
we
subject?
have unlimited opinions here.
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let's hear some of yours. What do you think about the church's teaching on that subject?
You know, I would kind of agree. I would think...
Kind of agree with what?
That...
I'm just hostile.
I know you are. You're very, very hostile. That I would agree that there was a specific purpose in creating humans. I don't think we were just random chance, because I think we're so far removed from all other animals. You know, we've created so much more. We've learned so much more. We have these very much higher desires.
So God chose to make us.
Yes.
When did He make that decision?
At the beginning, I guess.
Very beginning.
Yes.
Beginning of life. Millions and billions of years ago, He said, you know what, I think I'm going to create humans. But I'm just going to start this all in motion now and let it go on. Spin and spin and spin for like 1 billion years. And then there they are, and I get to watch a show.
Sure. Sure, that's what I believe. Word for word, that's what God was thinking.
Well, isn't that what you're suggesting?
I guess so.
Oh, all right.
Do you agree?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't know that I believe that.
Do you think it's just kind of random chance that we exist?
No, I don't know that either. I don't know. I have to think more about that. But I don't know. I think perhaps when we got to a certain level of understanding and development,
Mm-hmm.
that's when
Yes.
a real active interest took place.
So you think that God always existed,
Yes.
but he was just kind of watching things until, these essentially really smart monkeys started happening. It's like, you know what? I think they should believe in me.
No, I wouldn't.
I think that's what you're saying.
I wouldn't describe it exactly that way, but very similarly. I think I've always had a big problem with God having such an active role in our development and in our choices.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Well,
I think there has been some involvement with, as it's described, like in the first covenant, with the Jews to basically try to say, okay, here's the deal. You're either going to do this stuff or you're not, but here's your options. And then he came in again
Mm-hmm.
with Jesus and said, hey, if you're serious about this shit, this is what you got to do.
All right.
And but I don't know that I don't know that I believe that he created it for the end purpose, because I don't believe, I still have a problem with the omniscient God knowing the future.
Well, I think this goes back a couple episodes to where we were talking about, God just created the simplest world. It's kind of that question. It's a similar question, if you kind of break it down, why do some places get rain and some places have a drought?
Mm-hmm.
It's because God created this simple world. It's, I know you disagree that, this is the best possible world or that sort of thing, but that was kind of a theory that was proposed about why there's still suffering and that sort of thing. I think that all kind of goes back to try to answer this question as well. Maybe evolution, this whole billion-year history, that was just part of the process of this simplest world with still the end goal to have us exist. Looking at all of these possible worlds, you looked at the simplest one that still ended up with us existing.
I just don't think that we're valuable enough for him to have caused all this stuff to have created us.
That's really bleak. It's really pessimistic. You don't think humans are valuable enough for God to have created us?
No. For God to have created everything that became before us.
Okay.
And then us.
Mm-hmm.
For all of that to have existed just to create us?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he just create us, for crying out loud? I just don't see the logic of that.
Well, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
You asked.
Because it's if you agree that God is good, and if we agree that God created us,
yes.
So we both agree.
The world.
Yes, created the world. Yes. Right. So if we believe in God, but we also see this scientific explanation for everything, then we kind of have to accept both. And I think God, with the end goal of creating us, starting this rolling ball of evolution, I think that's the best explanation if we accept those two premises. I don't see any better explanation.
That we were his purpose?
Well, if we believe that God exists and we believe that we are important to God, so I guess three premises, and we believe in these, the scientific theory of evolution, then I think we have no choice but then to accept that we were the end goal of evolution, that God set evolution in motion. Because I don't see what other...
You have one more premise in there.
What is my other premise?
Well, created the world.
Yes.
Yes. that was the motivation, or maybe that's your conclusion, I guess.
Yes, that we were the motivation there. If we're important, we believe in God. We are important to God, and we believe in evolution.
Well, I think if we're of the only importance,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that all living creatures are important to God.
Well, yeah, but I think we're the most important. Yes.
Yeah.
So if we're the most important, God exists. We're the most important to God. And we believe in evolution.
Yes.
Then what other conclusion can we come to other than God set evolution in motion for us to exist?
Well, if God didn't know that it was going to happen,
then what would be the point of anything? Or I guess if we were just kind of a happy surprise.
Correct.
Well, then what's the point for God? What's God's?
I don't know what the point for God is for any of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Well, I guess what does God gain?
Yeah, God gains nothing.
Huh. Well, then I guess we also kind of have to accept that.
Except for that, like, I gain nothing from having children.
Yeah.
I mean, logically,
mm-hmm.
Like, what do I gain from that?
Yeah.
Well, I gain love and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, so there's that. So in a similar way,
so there's that. Yeah.
So in a similar way, he's created beings that he loves.
Yes.
He loves his creation,
mm-hmm.
and many of his creation, not all, love him.
Then I guess if we're saying,
but a lot of them spurned him, and that's
mm-hmm.
got to be painful. You'd think.
But
Son of a bitch.
But if we're accepting that God loves us, I don't think we can also accept that we're just some happy accident as a byproduct of everything else that God created.
Why do you think God loves dogs?
Yes.
Well, why can't they be the end all be all? Why weren't they the purpose?
Well,
why are we the purpose?
Well, the dogs aren't as smart as us. Dogs don't have that understanding of God.
I tell you, there's a lot of dogs that are a lot better than humans.
But
don't you agree?
Yes. But do dogs believe in God? Is there a single dog that believes in God?
I don't know the answer to that.
I would say no. I don't think any dog believes in God. But if there's still at least one human that believes in God, then there's more of a point in humans than there is in dogs.
Wow. So one human believer is worth the entire population of all dogs. Unbelievers.
Well, not in the very literal sense, no. Because I wouldn't value one human person for the lives of, a million dogs. I would probably save 1 million dogs rather than save one person.
Well, I'm not saying that you're going to
yes,
kill them. It's not like you got Damocles, sword hanging over a million or a billion dogs or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like, you got to pick this guy or all these dogs. Somebody's going to die today.
But I mean,
it's a value judgment.
Yeah, what I'm kind of saying is,
not that you're going to kill all.
Yes,
these, but
yes. So what I'm kind of saying is, then that would be the point, is to have humanity, because they actually believe in him rather than anything else in creation. Because what you're saying is, then we wouldn't necessarily be the most important thing to God, because if God didn't even know that we were going to exist, then the rest of the universe would be more important than us.
Well, what if there are other worlds that have sentient beings that believe in God?
What do you mean? Like,
are we more valuable than them, or the same value, or maybe less value?
I would say the same value.
I would think so too. And so then we humans wouldn't necessarily be the reason to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a whole bunch of different sentient beings.
But then I think that still kind of holds up with my explanation. That simplest world, I think that proves my point even more, because then that's even saying, well, maybe all of this billions of years of everything wasn't necessarily necessary for us specifically, but for all of these other sentient beings.
Yeah, it's a better argument.
There we go. Then thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, but you've outproved my argument a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a better argument when you put in the possibility of other worlds with other sentient beings that believe in God, and he loves those, and he put this whole thing in motion so he could maximize the output.
Yeah, he looked at a graph, the maximum amount of believers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting and unknowable.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a much longer discussion on that than I thought we would have. Moving on to our So I flipped a page in my notes. Moving on to realism versus nominalism. So here we're talking about Frege for a little bit.
Yes.
And he talks about signs. And so signs basically, replacing an object or a concept with, a symbol or a word or that sort of thing.
Number or whatever.
And so there's this, group of people that said signs are basically empty. They don't really mean anything. We can't really say that they have any meaning. And Frege says that signs are not empty, as we cannot give things property merely by definitions. So what he's kind of saying here is that, just by saying that, the plus sign means we're adding something, doesn't mean that we have necessarily given the plus sign that property. While we've given a sign for that property, we have not created that property by creating the sign. You just gave the most absurd eye roll I've ever seen. Our viewers saw it. I don't think any of our listeners did. But
all right, yeah. I have no comments.
Yeah, so then he kind of goes on.
Oh, God, I thought it was done.
Not quite. Frege goes on to basically kind of lay out all concepts can be given in terms of mathematical functions whose value for every argument is a truth value. So this is kind of even going back to his sort of ideas about logic, laying everything out in this sort of function.
Formulas and all that stuff.
Yes, and all kind of relates back to his signs, these signs not being empty just because we have given a sign to a property.
Signs, everyone is signs.
All right.
That's a song from the 60s.
That was your commentary on
Yes.
Frege. Moving on to first, second, and third in Peirce. So Peirce was a very heavy believer in a triadic system. So I'm going to read this little section here.
He's like those, what are they called?
Pythagoreans?
Yes, thank you.
So Peirce stated, 3 conceptions are perpetually turning up at every point in every theory of logic, and in the most rounded systems they occur in connection with one another. They are conceptions so broad and consequently indefinite that they are hard to seize and may be easily overlooked. I call them the conceptions of first, second, and third. First is the conception of being or existing independent of anything else. Second is the conception of being relative to, the conception of reaction with, something else. Third is the conception of mediation, whereby a first and second are brought into relation. So kind of these 3 levels of being almost. Something exists, and then we see that is the first thing, the first sort of level here. Something exists. Secondly, that something exists in relation to other things. It exists in a physical world. And then the third thing, there is something to understand the relation between those 2 things. And that is kind of, our role, essentially, to be that third part in this system, to understand the relations between these things. All right, he is thoroughly disinterested. And he believed that the aim of all scientific inquiry is to find the thirdness, to find, the explanation, the mediation between every relationship. And he also believed that we should not be looking for universal laws that determine everything, because really there's this irreducible element of chance in the universe. So there will always be something that doesn't necessarily fit our universal law. Eventually we will come across something that does not fit. And it is in this kind of sense of chance that he kind of leaves room for human freedom. Because even with this system where we're trying to find all these laws for everything, there's still this chance element, and that's where you have
chance
human
doesn't
freedom.
create freedom.
Yeah, I disagree with him here.
Random things do not create free will or freedom of choice just because there's a random chance that things won't work out the way it was predicted.
Yes, I agree.
There's no level of consciousness, like a decision making, if it's just odds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what else?
He also says that there are 3 active elements in the world. There's chance, law, and habit taking. So chance, like we were saying, the random chance that anything will happen. There is law, basically, where we see, sort of gravity and inertia, those sorts of things. Is sort of.
And I don't know that I believe in chance. Do you believe in chance?
I don't know.
In a real physical sense, I think the physical world is either determined by the causes or effects on those things, which may not be known, and so it appears to be chance. Although I guess when like the quantum mechanics, they say there's no way to predict, certain, activities or locations of these little small particles.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because we don't understand it.
Well, this is where he says, kind of breaks down chance, law, and habit taking. He says, in the infinitely remote beginning, there was nothing but unpersonalized feeling without any connection of regularity. Then the germ of a generalizing tendency would arise as a sport and would be dominant over other sports. Thus, the tendency to habit would be started, and from this, with the other principles of evolution, all the regularities of the universe would be evolved. So, there is chance, a lot of random things, then they started to group together in law, and then by habit, they followed these laws and led to evolution. But kind of what you were saying, what's the point?
I think it's just different levels of understanding and knowledge.
Yes.
It appears to be chance.
Mm-hmm.
It is not necessarily chance, but
Agreed.
whatever. Next.
The metaphysics of logical atomism. So here we're talking about Wittgenstein. So he kind of set up, everything can be set up into contradictory propositions. So either something is or something isn't. And with these contradictory propositions, there's one fact.
Ooh.
And the totality of facts is the world. So basically, if you... You laughed at that.
Yeah,
Why did you laugh at that? Yeah. Okay.
I just thought it was kind of a funny statement. I don't know why things are funny.
Yeah. I think we've...
I just have no understanding.
For audio listeners, the ones who can't see what happened, he asked me that question and immediately put up his book like we were just going to continue. That was it.
That was it.
Yes.
And that is funny.
Yes.
I don't know why that's funny. I guess if it's something surprising, something absurd.
I think I've mentioned this before.
Contradictory.
There's a Calvin and Hobbes strip where one of them says, why do we find things funny? And I think it's Hobbes says, well, there's so much nonsense in the world. If we didn't laugh at nonsense, we'd have no other reaction to it. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Back to Wittgenstein.
Yes.
So this, for all of these contradictory propositions, we have a fact. And so the facts build up the world.
Right. The world's about facts.
Then he kind of goes on to say that objects are possible constituents of a state of affairs, and they are simple and combine into complexes. And so really everything that we see is part of something else.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's the explanation there, I think.
All right.
That's all I have to say about Wittgenstein. Bad and good metaphysics. So I think we're still talking about Wittgenstein here.
Yeah, I think so. Spinoza.
Spinoza is mentioned, yes. Spumoni.
Yes. We had Spumoni, didn't we?
We did have Spumoni. We've mentioned that.
We need to go down to the hill and get some good Spumoni.
It's good Spumoni.
We need to go to Adriana's.
I've never been to Adriana's.
You have been to Adriana's?
Never mind, I have been to Adriana's.
I thought you have.
I don't know. I don't remember going.
Last time I went was years ago because I had to go pick up my race packet for a half marathon. Maybe it was a marathon. And so we were downtown, and I insisted on going to Adriana's the day before a long run. And I had a salsiccia sandwich.
Oh, my God.
It's a salsiccia sandwich, salsiccia sausage. It was like a spicy Italian sausage with some sort of sauce on it, which I'm sure was not healthy, and garlic cheese bread. So you have garlic cheese on each side of the salsiccia. And it's just... And it's with butter. The good garlic cheese bread. Authentic.
Good race food.
Yeah, it was a bad pre-race decision. I struggled. I think it was a marathon. I think it was my last marathon ever. No, I don't know which one it was.
Yes. So back to Wittgenstein.
Yes.
So Wittgenstein kind of points to this idea of spiritualistic metaphysics, and this is really what he believed is not accurate. He believed that the spiritualistic kind of method is misled by grammar because we expect a physical substance. And when we expect this physical substance, and there's really no word, we eventually don't find this physical substance, and there's no word to describe, what is beyond this physical substance, and so we turn to spirituality, essentially. So we look to something, beyond reality, and he really believes that this is not the way to go. Eventually we can almost come to this realistic explanation for things. And he really just did not like metaphysics. For as much as he's talked about in his metaphysics here, he did not like metaphysics because he said metaphysics is philosophy masquerading as natural science. And so he really thinks, we can't, use philosophy to describe the natural world. Science has to take that place. There's no point in using the spirituality to describe everything. We just kind of have to look to science. And he also believes, people to put too much emphasis on metaphysics as well, because he states that philosophy has no foundations, and it is not a foundation itself. So it's kind of this thing that is separate from everything else. We don't have to have philosophy to talk about science. We don't have to have science to talk about philosophy. We don't have to, He says, I think philosophy is more of a web than anything. You know, you don't have to have this one starting point. You can just start from somewhere in the web and you can build out from there. You don't have to, start with epistemology or metaphysics. Just talk about what you want to talk about and leave it there.
Shabab?
What?
Isn't that the giant spider?
Shelob?
Shelob. Thank you.
Not Shabab. Yes, Shelob, the giant spider. One of the giant spiders in the Lord of the Rings.
There's more than one?
Well, there's a worse one. There was Ungoliant in the Silmarillion, the book that takes place
Silmarillion. That's a made-up book.
Well, all books are made up, Dad.
That's true.
The spider that ate the two sources of light in the world.
Huh.
Yes, and then
there were the only two sources?
Yeah, there were two trees.
Oh, I guess it got really dark, huh?
Yeah. Well, one would be bright while the other was dark.
Not after we ate them both.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of darkness then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was kind of what I was talking about. I don't have to go into that. Never mind.
No. So we done with that?
I'm done, unless you have anything else to add. That was the last one.
That was the last thing I had to say. It was Shelob.
Shabab.
Shabab. Isn't that like something from a 50s show tune or something?
Probably. Sounds about right.
All right. Well, I'm sorry about my hostility to the metaphysics.
That's all right. I didn't enjoy it very much either.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the previous chapter, which was epistemology, and those thinkers, and I thought that was pretty illuminating. But the metaphysics, I'm still frustrated by my college experience studying metaphysics. And thinking, God, this is such a waste of time.
Well, next time we get to talk about philosophy of mind.
That might be more interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. What are the next chapters?
Mind, ethics, political philosophy.
Yeah, I think it's the only political philosophy chapter is modern, isn't it?
No, we had one last chapter.
Early modern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last unit, I guess.
That's true. That is true. Yes.
Well, it's ethics, then aesthetics, then political philosophy, then God. And that's it.
Yes.
So 5 more.
5 more. And then this season 1.
Yes, and we're still taking recommendations for season 2. So tweet at us.
What's the...
Well, I actually really don't... I've kind of been thinking I don't actually have to read it out. It's in the description of every episode.
Yeah, why don't they just hit the link in the show notes or whatever they're called?
Oh, yeah, there is a link to it somewhere, but the Twitter handle is in the description of every episode.
There you go. Click on it or something.
Copy
and paste.
Capital U, lowercase LMTD, capital O opinions.
I have a Twitter, but I never tweet.
Yeah. I don't tweet very much either on the.
So is it am I on Twitter if I never tweet?
Well, yeah. You can still view things.
I'm a lurker.
Well, I used to never post anything on Instagram.
What changed it?
Well, I posted those 3 videos of me playing
some live music.
Yes,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we talked about that and went down to Beale Street.
Right,
and I played the local band here in St. Louis.
Yeah, what's the name of the local band?
Kingdom Brothers. They were great.
Those guys are some good musicians.
If anyone is in the St. Louis area, from our listeners, you have to go listen to the Kingdom Brothers. They were amazing.
Really good. Yeah. But now I feel like I have to see them again just to know if they're really good or if they just really had a good night. You know? Maybe the next time you see them,
well, I'm trying to get some people to go here in a few days, I think.
Right? Yeah, we'll
see.
Playing the same place? Or
I think it's a different place.
Oh, okay. They're going to have are you talking about like little 18-year-olds?
Yeah.
You might check the venue, make sure you can get in. But like that place, I think you could have gotten in.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's a restaurant, too. They just wouldn't serve you, of course.
And I don't think they're the band to play in 21 Up exclusive establishments.
Well, they might.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, depends.
Yes, that's true.
On the venue. But yeah, I'd like to see them at like an outdoor festival type thing or a patio even. I think the blues and those kind of R&B bands those are best. I don't know why I think this, but best outdoors at like a festival. I don't know what it is about.
I think it's that, and a lot of older music too really is best live, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially, the rock and the soul and stuff. And I don't think you get too much of that anymore these days.
Well, because it's so heavily produced.
Because you're expected to play the same thing every time now.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true.
It's true for a lot of musicians, I would say.
Well, it depends on what their performance is. I mean, if they can do it well, but it's so much as pre-recorded or pre-produced. you can't really do it different live. But
Well, and there's no solos in songs anymore. You don't get
That's true.
instrumental solos.
that is true.
Not as much anyway.
Yeah.
You really should.
Even back when I was growing up in the '80s, the rock songs would have like some sort of guitar solo in them.
Yeah.
More often than not.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah, but the Kingdom Brothers, good band, man.
yeah,
They're
very good.
very
Very good.
talented.
Yes.
All right,
That's all I have to say about that, I guess.
That's all I have to say about that. That's have you seen Forrest Gump?
No.
Well, you keep using his phrase. That's all I got to say about that.
Mm.
He was.
I know the premise of Forrest Gump.
What is the premise of Forrest Gump?
He's trying to find Jenny.
By the way, Jenny is the villain.
Yes.
Do you believe that?
You've talked about this. I
Have
was just
I?
saying. Yes, you have. You went on a rant
About
a
why
few
Jenny
episodes
is the
ago.
villain?
Yes, I think so.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, well, it happened. All right. Well, this has been episode 36 of Unlimited Opinions. I've been Adam Bishop.
I'm still Mark Bishop.
Do you want to enlighten me again why Jenny is the villain before we go?
Well, I don't want the spoilers, so we can wait for the.
No, go ahead.
You have to watch the movie. I don't want to.
I think you've already ranted it to me about this.
I don't
once.
remember ranting.
I think you absolutely have.
All she does is use the guy.
Yeah.
Time after time after time after time, and she's like, yeah. I mean, I won't go into details, but it's like, my lord, behave yourself, woman.
All right. Well, that's it, I guess.
Yeah, but it's a great movie.
That's our after end theme song. Little bit there.
What is?
That little after we say, this has been Unlimited Opinions. I'm Adam Bishop. I'm Mark Bishop. Everything we say after that point goes after the end.
Oh
music.
yeah, I thought you were talking about the music itself.
Oh no.
Oh, so have this music started in already? I don't hear it.
Well, we can't hear it.
I don't hear it. I still can't hear it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Good night.
It's ridiculous.